Hello and welcome to Good Harvest. This is part 8 of our eLife web series where we show you how to create a promotion card and include CSS animations and design it to persuade and convince a user to purchase the product collection being promoted. We recommend that you use subtitles as some parts of the video may not be clear. Now, if you're new here, this is a part of our step-by-step tutorial video on how to create a product page for an e-commerce website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, where we also include UI designs such as sliders, animations, and so on. Check out the full playlist with all parts in the description and the top comment down below. Now subscribe to Good Harvest and let's get started. Alright, so in the last part of our web series, in part 7, we were learning about how to create a slideshow. So now, today, we're going to be learning how to create the promotion section of our web page, and we'll also include a little animation. So now we're going to scroll down to our HTML page. We're not going to need JavaScript for this. We just need HTML and CSS for this part. So we want the promotion section to appear after 2 sections. So this is section 1, section 2, and then a promotion section should appear here. And then after these 2 sections as well, after the smartwatch and the mobile, then another promotion section should appear here. And we do not need to create another one since the end part or the bottom part of the product page will just be the footer. So now let's scroll back up and let's head over to our HTML page. So once again, it should be after, the first one should be after the headphone section. So now instead of scrolling down and hurting our heads, making ourselves dizzy, we can just type it, put headphones section right here. Alright, so let's first create a comment as always so that we will be able to navigate through our HTML file much more easier and much better. So we're going to type in promotion section. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a class since we're going to use 2 promotion sections. We're going to add 2 promotion sections. So we're going to create a class for this and we're going to call the section promo section just to be simple and understandable. And now this promotion section will be separated in 2 sections. So the left side of the section will contain the image, in which the image will have a little bit of an animation, and then the right side of the promotion section will have all the text, the details, the description, and the button as well. So now we're going to create the image section. So we're simply going to call this class a promo image container. And remember, we're using classes because we're going to be adding another promotion section and it will have the same classes, only different images and different text and description. So now we're going to include the image tag and simply we're just going to choose the promotion product that we are trying to promote, the product that we're trying to promote. So I chose this one right here. So this is actually a collection of smartwatches, and because it is a collection of smartwatches, for the alternative text, so just in case the browser or the page has not loaded the image yet, maybe a problem happened, technical issue, then we're going to show the user or tell the user that the image that was supposed to be displayed was a collection of smartwatches. As simple as that. So now when we scroll down to our promotion section, which should be right here, we can see our collection of smartwatches. So this will be on the left side and the text will be on the right side. Alright, so now we're done with the image section of the promotion section. We're going to create the text section. So we're going to simply call this promo text container. Alright, so now we're going to create a class. We're going to have several different headings, but first we want to include this section of the promotion section. So it will have this blue line, which amplifies the aesthetic of the section. And then we're going to include a text called new collection. So now we're going to create a new class and we're going to call it promo heading, since it's going to be at the head or at the top of the container, of the text container. Now, because we already included the blue line, and the blue line is simply, actually we'll scroll from here, we can see that we included the blue line class and it was in a span element. So we're just going to do exactly that. Alright, so now we're going to include the text, which is new collection, which will be right next to the blue line. So now let's create the next section, which is going to be the second heading in our promotion section in the text container. So this section will basically attract a user and try to convince we'll try and persuade the user to purchase or to check out the promotion and also to purchase an item from the promotion. So we're going to create a simple phrase. I came up with explore the world of advanced handwear. Alright, and now we're going to be adding the text or the paragraph text section in our text container. So we're going to create a new element called P, which basically stands for paragraph, and here we'll add our description. So it's going to be a description of the promotion. So you can either add real text if you're using this for a project, but since this is for demonstration, I'm going to be inserting lorem ipsum text. Alright, and in order to include the lorem ipsum text, we're just going to type in a random generator and copy it from there. Alright, and now the last thing that we're going to include is the button, which will basically say shop now. And it's going to be a blue button, which we have also used without the product page. It's going to sort of look like the one that we added on top. So we're just going to include a button element and then the class name, which is blue button, which we have used. And we're going to change a few properties as well, but the text which will be included is shop now. Alright, so now when you scroll down and when we check our promotion section, you can see that it does not really look like a promotion section. It needs to be in one line and in one row and not in a column, etc. And also the text, the design, not really aesthetic or designed. But first we're going to copy this whole promotion section and we're going to paste it in for the second section of the promotion section, which will basically promote a collection of smartphones. So it's going to be the same thing, we're just going to change the image that we include and the text and the second heading that we include as well as the first heading that we include. But first, before we do that, let's include a comment indicating the end of the promotion section. So since there are going to be two promotion sections, we're going to include first promotion section, and then we're going to copy this whole thing. And since a promotion section should appear after two sections, you can choose where or when the promotion section should appear, but we're going to go with after two product sections. So the second product section is the mobile section, so it should be right after here. So now instead of scrolling down, we're going to simply type mobile section. So I think I called it the mobile phone section right here. So it's going to be right after the mobile button. Alright, so now right after here, we're going to paste in our promotion section. So this one will be called the second rather. And then we're going to change the image and the name of the file, which I named it, or of the image, which I named it was mobile. And we're going to change the alternative text because this is a collection of mobile phones. And the promotion type is going to be a summer collection. And we're choosing summer because it is summer as of now. And we're also going to change the second heading since this is not handwear, but for phones. So we're going to go with, so I came up with relish the flavor of fresh wine. And we're just going to keep the lorem ipsum text. So if you do want to include real text for your project, then do include, because this is just for a demonstration. So now when you scroll down and you check our summer collection, you can see that it is similar to the smartwatch section. So now we're going to change the CSS properties. So now let's head over to our CSS file in order to include all the properties. So first we're going to include a CSS comment, and we're going to call this promotion section. So we'll be able to navigate through our CSS file much easier. And now we're going to first edit the first class of the first element in the section, which is the promotion section element. So since it is a class, we're going to use a dot in order to select it. And now we can include its properties. So first we want the text and the image to be in one row and not in a column. So we're going to use the flex layout, and specifically we want the flex direction to be in a row. Now we want to change the width. So we want to make sure that the whole section is set to 100%, so it covers the full space that it can take. And then we will also specify the height, which will go with 500 pixels. And then we're going to add spacing between the product section above, which is the headphone section, and the promotion section itself. So we're going to add a margin top spacing of 110 pixels, which I found was efficient. And then we're going to include a little bit of a box shadow. So we want to create this subtle 3D effect. So first of all, we don't want the shadow to appear left and or right, so we're going to set it to 0. So that's the X value. For the Y value, we want the shadow to appear a little bit lower. So we're going to set it to 10 pixels. If you want it to be on top, then we would have set it to -10 pixels, but we want it to be on the bottom, so we'll set it to 10 pixels on the bottom below the promotion section. And now we're going to include the blurriness or the softness of the box shadow, since you can see now it's pretty rough and not soft at all. So we're going to go with 40 pixels. So the pixels in the box shadow should basically diffuse to 40 pixels of spacing. And now we're going to include the color of the box shadow because we don't want it to be completely black. So we're going to use the RGBA property, and because we need to also include the opacity, we want to make the box shadow a little more transparent. We're going to change that value with the A value. So first let's start with the red value. We want it to be 176. The green value should be 176 as well, and the blue value should also be 176. And for the alpha value, we're going to set it to 0.2. So 1 is basically the darkest and 0 is basically the lightest. So we're going to set it to 0.2 because we want the 3D shadow. We want the shadow to be a little more subtle, or the 3D effect to be a little more subtle. So now we want to make sure that the corner of the promotion, each corner of the promotion section should not be sharp, but it should be a little more round. So we're going to use the border radius property, and we're going to set it to 5 pixels. So 0 being, very sharp, and the higher the border radius, the least sharp or the more round that the corner of an element will be. And now we want to make sure that if any text or if the image overflows, which we will make sure that it won't happen, but just in case, we're going to set the we're going to use the overflow property, and we're going to set it to hidden. So we want any text or any image that is, or any element basically that is inside the promotion section and that overflows it, so it goes beyond the promotion section, should be completely hidden. Alright, so now we're going to work on the next element of our section, which is the promote image container. So we're going to copy that and then paste it here. Alright, so first we want to set the width property, and we want it to be 570 pixels. However, we want to include padding space on the left side of the container, on the left side of the promote image container and the right side. And if we include padding space, then the width of the image container will be extended, so it will be the width of the width in which we set it to plus the padding space that we set it to. So we want it to be 570 pixels exactly, including the padding space. So we're going to use this property called calc, standing for calculation or calculator. And what we want to do is we want to reduce the pixel size. So we're going to add 50 pixels of spacing to the left and to the right side of the image container. So because of that, if we add all of those two padding spaces together, 50 plus 50 equals 100 pixels. So since we want the width to be 570 pixels, including the padding space, we're going to set the width of the image container to be 570 pixels minus 100 pixels in total. And then we're going to include the padding space, but we only want it to be on the left and on the right. So we don't need to use padding left and padding right. You can just set it in one line. So the left side is obviously the height side, and the right side basically sets the horizontal spacing. So now the image container is 570 pixels in total. Oops. So now we're going to set the height value, and we want the image container to be the full width of the promotion section. And then we're going to change the background color to be a little slight blue. So it's going to be similar color to this, but a slightly darker than that. So we're going to set to value that I found was good, which is 231, 238, and 252. So now you can see that the image container, you can see the division or the line in which our image container is to the left side, which is the blue area, and the text section is the white area. So now so the only element that is going to be inside the image container is simply the image element, though we want the image element to be set to the center horizontally and vertically. So we're going to use three properties. We're going to use the flex layout to help us to make the image container more flexible, and then we're going to use the justify content property to make sure that the image or the image element is going to be set horizontally center, and we're going to use the place items property to make sure that the image is set vertically center. So now because the image is really large, we're going to have to change the image size. So we're going to select the container which the images are in, which is the promo image container, and then we're going to select the element that we want to edit, which is the image element, and then we want to set the width, the maximum width that the image should be, which is 100% of the image container. And then we also want to set the height, which would also be 100% of the image container. And then we want to use object width cover to make sure that the image, or this basically helps to resize the image to make sure that it fits inside the image container and does not overflow. So when we check our image container, we can see that the image size has been reduced and it is vertically centered and horizontally centered. But now we have a little bit of a problem. 570 pixels. We set the image container to 570 pixels, so it should be around here in the middle of the promotion section. However, it has been reduced because we have not set the width of the text area just yet, but we're going to do so right now. So now we're going to be working on the promo text container class. So in this class, we want to make sure that the background color is always white. We also want to create a flex layout. We want all of the elements to be in one column rather than in a row. And we also want to make sure that all of the elements inside the text container is set to the middle of the container horizontally and vertically as well, which is why we're using the flexible layout. So first we want to make sure that the flex direction is set to a column, and then we're going to use the justify content property to make sure that all of the elements are set horizontally centered. And now we want all of our elements to be to the left side, which it already is, but in other, for example, in other browsers, it may be set to the middle, it may be set to the right if we do not set the value in which the elements should be aligned to. So we want to make sure that we align the text to the left side of the container. So we're going to use the place items property, and we're going to set it to the left side of the text container, just to make sure. Now we're going to include a little bit of a padding space, so spacing inside the text container element. And the amount, we only want it to be width-wise or horizontal-wise and not vertical-wise. So we're going to set the vertical spacing to 0, or for the y spacing value to 0, and then for the x value, or basically the horizontal spacing, we want both left and right side of the text container to have an inside spacing of 80 pixels. So now you can see that change. And now the last thing that we're going to add is we're going to use this property called flex, and what this does is it helps to either grow or to shrink an element, especially when the width value of an element is not set. So we're not setting the width value of the text container because we just want it to take the remaining space that is left of the promotion section, because the promotion section basically covers the full width that it can take, which is from here to here, and then the image width is from here and it should be until here. But we don't need to set the width of the text container. However, we're going to make sure that it covers the remaining space, which should be from around here to here. If the width of the image container is here, then the text container should fill up the remaining space, which no element has filled in the promotion section. So we're going to set the flex value to 1. So now we can see that the width size of the image container, so when we click on inspect element, and it's above here, and when we hover around, we can see which is the left value after the promote image container name is 570 pixels, which is what we set it to, and the text container has filled up the remaining spacing properly and has shrunk. Right now we're going to be working on the promo heading, so we're going to copy that and paste it here since it's the next element. So we wanted to have a flexible layout. So the promo heading is basically the top part, which is new collection. And then we want to make sure that the blue line and the heading has a flex direction of a row, so we want it to be in one line. And then we're going to include margin bottom, so that will be the spacing between the heading, which is the new collection area, and the phrase that we added below it. So we don't need to work on the blue line class because it has already been added. What we're going to work on is the heading itself. So we're going to select the H1 element. So simply we're just going, since it is specifically in the promo heading element or container, we're going to select that class, which it is in, and then select the element in which we want to edit from that class, which is the H1 element. And what we want to do is we want to set the color not to be black, but to be a little bit dark gray, and we've used this multiple times before in our product page. We also want to set the font weight because it is a little too thick right now. So we're going to, it's probably like 600 or 700. So we wanted to set it to 500. And then the font size should be set to 25 pixels, so it should be slightly smaller. So now that looks way softer. The next element is simply the H2 element, or the second heading. So we're going to select the H2 element, and the H2 element is inside the promo text container directly. That's its parent. So we're going to select that container, and then with that container, we're going to select the element that we want to add in the container, which is the H2 element. And what we want to do is we want to set the color to be grayish as well. And then we want it to be a little thicker than the promotion heading that we added on top. We want to change the font size to be much bigger than the promotion section with the promotion heading, and then we want to make sure that there is no spacing lingering between the new collection and the second heading itself. Now we feel like the thickness of the phrase is a little too thick, and we want to make it slightly thinner, but we don't want it to set it to 500 because if we feel like it feels a little too thin. So we want it to be in between the 500 value and the 600 value. So we're going to keep it at 600, and we're going to keep it lighter than 600, but much more thicker, but a little more thicker than 500. So we're going to use this value called WebKit Font Smoothing, which we have also used before, and we're going to set it to anti-alias, which will basically soften the lining of each letter so that it appears more smoother and softer. Alright, so now we're going to be working on the paragraph text. So that is simply we're using a P element. So we're going to simply select a container that it is in, and then the element we want to work on, which is the paragraph. And now what we want to do is we want to make sure that the paragraph text fills up the whole width that it is given, which is basically from here until here. So we're going to set the width to be 100% just to make sure. And then we're going to change the color, and we want it to be slightly lighter than black, and also lighter than the heading that we included here. So we're going to set it to a little light gray. So we're going to set it to 110. So this basically creates a soft, appealing look. Now we want to change the font size to 16 pixels. Our font size of every text is always 16 pixels by default, but we want to set it ourselves because in other browsers, the default font size might be 20 pixels, or it might be smaller, such as 15 or 14 pixels. So we want to set the font size ourselves, and then we feel like it's a little too rough. We want it to look a little soft, so we're going to use the WebKit fonting that we used in the heading as well to create a more soft look. So now you can see that it is changed slightly. Then we want there to be spacing between the top and the bottom. So above it and below it, there should be slight spacing, and we're going to set that. So we're going to first set the margin top, and we're going to set it to 10 pixels, and the bottom spacing should also be 10 pixels. And because they're both 10 pixels, we can just set that in one line. And the Y value, or the vertical value, is basically on the left side. So we're going to set that to 10 pixels, and the width or horizontal value will be on the right. So we're going to set that to 0. If we wanted to set it to, for example, 20 pixels, you can see that it changes between the left and the right side, but we don't want any left and right margin spacing. We only want top and bottom. So we're going to set that X value to 0, or that horizontal spacing to 0. And now we're going to be working on the last element of the text container, which is the Shop Now blue button. So we're going to, since this button, we need to select the button because, we need to select the blue button specifically in the text container because there are several classes that in which the blue button is used in, several sections in which the blue button is used in. So we want to specifically set a few properties in the button that is in the text container. So the name of that container is promo text container, and then we'll select the blue button element. And first off, we want to make sure that there is spacing above the button, so it should create a spacing between the button itself and the paragraph text, and we're going to set it to 12 pixels. We also want to set the padding space, and we're going to set it to 15 pixels height wise, and then width wise we want to set it to 35 pixels. And then we're going to set the border radius, and we're going to set it to 3 pixels. So we want a slight border radius, but it shouldn't be too round. And then we're going to set the font size since it is too small, and we're going to set it to 17 pixels. Now, if you like the promotion section the way it is, and if you like how the button is set, then we can leave it as it is. But personally, I prefer that the button should be resized according to the spacing and the text size that we added to. Because right now we did not set the button to be to cover the full width of the text container, so we don't want that. So what we can do to fix that is we're going to scroll up to the container itself. So in order to fix this issue and to make sure that the button is not set to 100% width, so it does not fill the full container of the text container, we can just add another property, which is called align items, which basically is sort of like place items. It aligns items to wherever you set the value to, so either left, center, right. However, the terminology that is used is instead of the value being left, it's going to be start. If it's at the right side, it's going to be end. So you can see that there are several properties. Center, end would be to the right. That means we would align items. It would align items to the right side of the container. If it was start, it would align items to the left side of the container. So we simply want to align items to the left side of the container, and we don't want any width property to be set since we did not add any width property. So we're going to set it to start, which will align items to the left side, which is what we want. So now you can see that the button width has changed to its normal size, and it has changed based on the spacing that we added, the padding spacing that we added, and the text size that we added. So the last thing that we want to do is we want to add the animation. So when a user hovers a mouse over the image, whether it be the smartwatch or the collection of phones, we want to create basically an earthquake or a shaky animation. So the animation should shake slightly. So it should be like the animation that we added here on top. So we're going to scroll up to our image property, which is right here where we set the image element. Now right after this, we want to make sure that the animation only plays when the user's mouse hovers around the image. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this whole thing, and we're going to include the hover property, since the animation will only take place when the image is hovered by the mouse. So now what we want to do is want to include the shake animation that we added in the second part of the web series. So please do check out part 2 of the eLife web series so that you can know how we created the CSS animation of the shake animation. So if you've been following along and you've created this animation before, we're just going to type in shake, and these are the keyframes or how we created the shake animation. So at 0%, it basically defines the start of the animation. So first we want it to be at its normal position, and then at 25%, so this is basically counted by seconds, so 0.5 seconds. So 25% of the 0.5 seconds that we included, that we set the animation for, we want it to move slightly to the right side. So we set it to 3 degrees, and since we did not set it to something like 90 degrees or not even 45 degrees, we want it to shake, we want it to move a little bit, so we set it to only 3 degrees. So you can see that the animation is slight. And then halfway through the animation, we wanted it to be in its normal position. So it decreases by 3 degrees, back to 0 degrees. And then at the 75% mark of the animation, we set the image to be rotated to the left side slightly by 3 degrees. So once again, it changes by 3 degrees. And then at the end of the animation, we set it to be its normal position, which is at 0 degrees. So once again, the change has been set by 3 degrees. So it created a nice stable animation. So please do check out part 2 for the full explanation. So now we're going to scroll back down over here, and since we're going to use the same animation for the image for the other promotion images, we're going to use the same animation name, but we're going to change the number of seconds that it should play for. So for up above, it played for 0.5 seconds. This time we're just going to change it to 0.7 seconds. So that means it should be a little bit slower. So the more seconds, the slower it will take for the animation to move. And then we want to make sure that the animation is slightly smooth. So you can also see that when you hover around the animation, it feels a little rough. It moves well. It moves just like we want it to, but it's a little rough. It doesn't feel smooth. It feels a little rigid. So we're going to use this property called linear. So now when we hover around here, you can see that the animation is way, way smoother. And then the last property that we want to add is infinity. So while the mouse hovers around the image, the animation should move. So it should loop over and over and over again, and it should not stop until the user stops hovering. When the user hovers again, the animation starts again. And this should also be the same case for the other promotion section image. Alright, and now we're at the end of part 8. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, comment down below, and subscribe to Code Harvest. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned, as in the next part of the eLife web series, we demonstrate how to create and design a footer and use JavaScript to add a UI scrolling effect for the product page navigation bar. Now, see you in the next video.